561 says Amari didn't produce Jack with Josh. I don't want to bring that cupcake back. Okay. And I think that's where we'll start here. I wanted to tell you, though, that it's Nick Harris who tweeted, there's building team interest in bringing free agent Amari Cooper back for a reunion. That, is after last year started with Cleveland, then to Buffalo, wasn't good in either situation. It's the same thing that's been said about Amari Cooper since his first year with the Raiders. Mm-hmm. They're not sure if he loves football. They're, they feel like maybe, he's not always super engaged. I just think now he's older, and there's the serious question that he might have fallen off a cliff. I mean, Buffalo really needed somebody to step up. He couldn't do it, Brian. He couldn't.
Yeah, I haven't looked at Buffalo tape or anything like that. I just know when he was with Dallas, maybe some of the best ball he had played. His ability to separate, his ability in the red zone. There were times, the things that really got him into, the doghouse with Jerry Jones was during the COVID times where he didn't want to get the shot, and he missed a couple of key games. He missed the Kansas City game and he missed the Raiders game, and both games are games that the Cowboys very well could have won if he was in the lineup. And, that's kind of where I think Jerry got mad at him. But I could say without watching the situation in Buffalo and how I would like to say that maybe there's something that kind of got him to click while he was here in Dallas. And maybe it was working with Dak Prescott. Maybe that was something that the feel that, and working with Josh Allen is one of the best to play. But sometimes you get with a quarterback that knows your movements, knows where you're going to be, knows where you're going to be in routes, and has a feel where to put the ball. Maybe Dak was that guy for him.
Had combined 4 touchdowns last year, 44 catches, 550 yards. I mean, if you just had that player, it's probably better than Tolbert. So, I'm just I'm wondering, what's a fair expectation?
Well, he's one of many players that you can go after. He's just the guy that probably is going to be the easiest to get right now. Whether, now depending on what Keenan Allen wants, that would be probably the next. But the other players you're going to have to probably give up some type of draft capital to go get, whether you like Pickens from the Pittsburgh or Williams from Detroit. You're going to have to give up something to go get those guys. So we'll see but I'm always interested. Like I say, I thought Amari played some of his best ball when he was here with Dallas. He just, again, upset some folks with the way he went about some things.
817 says, guys, let's just get Keenan Allen. Dude is so much better. That's kind of what I was wondering about. Sure. What's the difference in money going to be? And then, we see how Luka reacted to getting traded. He says he would never live in Texas again. How's Amari Cooper feel? Like you got traded for a 5.
Yeah.
You got sent to Cleveland. I'd be a little testy about that alone.
I think not having Mike McCarthy here's a big deal.
I think a real big
Bobby's deal. been on that, and I think that was a big reason. Excuse me.
Yeah, part of you.
Flynn VP.
Fought through that, but we were good now.
JD and Mountain Dew over the weekend?
Yeah, no doubt. Was ready to rock. Had to go ahead and celebrate another draft weekend. But, yeah, with Amari, he was very productive in Cleveland. The production just kind of started to drop off. And I know, we were just talking off air, there was Matthew Berry who had the article coming out of the Combine. He had just been talking to offensive coordinators around the league, one former coach of Amari's, and I think he was from Cleveland. There is some concern about, the injuries. Has that caught up to him? Is he still going to be able to be the same player? I think that's a fair question.
Very fair.
But certainly that he does work, to your point, with Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
They've got chemistry.
They do.
So that's something that Amari would have a leg up on that a Keenan Allen doesn't. Keenan Allen's never worked with Dak Prescott before.
Yeah.
So bring him in. And, when Patrick Walker is writing about it on DallasCowboys.com, then he's retweeting this could be imminent, it makes me think that inside those walls, they talk, as you know, Brian. Mm-hmm. There's the Amari Cooper returning to Dallas, I think, is probably very likely.
He seems like the guy with the least path to try and get. Like I said, I think other guys you're going to have to either come up with more money or come up with draft capital to get them. And then even if you trade for some of these guys, then it turns into you're going to probably have to pay those guys too if you want to keep them around. So, there's a couple of different ways they could go here. Is Keenan Allen like a $10 million one-year player? I meant to look that up while you guys were talking.
He might be. That might be why he's waiting around.
I think that was what he was. Might be right about that with Chicago. I kind of remember him just signing a one-year deal and it being for $10 million. So
one projection I see says 13 to 15 mil.
okay.
Yeah.
So that I think that's significantly more than Amari's going to get. I think Amari's more in the 5 to 8 range.
I think that's where Amari's going to probably fall well below that, and that's the path of least resistance right now. And you're probably getting a lot less of a player, but you're getting a player that the quarterback does have familiarity with.
Okay, Jerry Jones with quite a spicy comment on one of his players. Could this signal the end? I think this might be the final season that Trayvon Diggs is a Cowboy. He was asked when Trayvon could return. Jerry said, "We have a good idea. He's working hard. That's very important because if he will be very good and diligent in his rehab, then he'll get back quicker. And when he does get back, he'll be sounder. If he has not worked as hard, he is more subject to injury. He's learned that one time."
Yeah.
I have a lot of hope that his actual rehab and experience from the time before is really helping him out, and I think it is. So calling the player out for not rehabbing that first injury and maybe suggesting that he's injured again as a result of that. And I think that's one of the things that's going to get a frustrated Jerry Jones. Seems like he's on his bleep list right now, Brian.
Yeah, he absolutely is. And this is something that, to me, is not new. We've talked about this.
You've talked about it on
I
the
wonder
show.
where we've heard this before.
Yeah.
Then people want to tweet like videos of Diggs working out hard, but it's just we don't know what the hell we're talking about, Brian.
No, this time last season we were talking about this. I keep saying we're talking about it, but there was some concerns. There was some concerns that he would be ready for the 2024 season, and that he wasn't working on his rehab as diligently as he needed to be, and that were others that were working diligent on it, and he wasn't one of those. And there was some talk too about that maybe that he, and the secondary coach was kind of coddling him a little bit and keeping him. Al Harris was protecting him from being a guy that should be diligent with his workout. And, the player was trying to do some things. Al was like kind of had his back, and, people in the organization were like, well, he needs to get this going. If we're going to have him for 2024 and be ready to go, he's got to be able to do this better. And it just didn't happen that way. And it's like, say, Jerry's now saying things that we really knew about this time last year.
That's probably another guy that they talk about when they're talking about trying to make sure they're drafting high-character football players who love football and are as dedicated to it as you would want your professionals
Smith
to be.
Could fall into that.
Yeah, there's a handful of
maybe
guys.
Maybe Guyton could fall into that too.
Yeah, there's a handful.
Yeah.
But Trayvon Diggs, not only did you draft him, but then you got to the table a little early and gave him the big deal. And you should have known better than anyone. It's clear when you watch him on Sundays. This isn't a guy who is all in. So Cowboys, Jerry, you're probably ticked off, but don't be surprised by it.
Right.
Great stuff, guys. Okay, so many things to ask you about with this draft, and the text is asking about another one. What about Isaiah Bond? I want to bring that up for sure, but did the George Pickens thing actually get close? My guy in Pittsburgh, buddy of mine up there, Steelers fan, was bugging me thinking the Cowboys were going to send 12 to the Steelers. I was like, dude, that's not happening.
No. They asked for 44. I was asking around some media, some people that cover the team over there too. Pittsburgh would have wanted 44 for Pickens.
Yeah.
I just don't see the George Pickens fit in Dallas. He is an outstanding talent. But this is a dude who's fighting teammates and fans every single weekend. There's something going on with him on a game day. And for Brian Schottenheimer, who's talking about, you look at their draft, high character guys, team captains. They're preaching love football, the commitment level. I don't know that George Pickens doesn't love football, but clearly he is easily distracted by things that are not just the game. And when Mike Tomlin is like openly, okay, I'm totally cool with parting ways with this guy who's put up with a lot of dudes that have different types of personalities, Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, go through the list there. That makes me think I really want no part of a George Pickens personally here in Dallas, despite the talent there. I think that's not one where the talent outweighs the risks that are involved.
So the Steelers asked for 44. Oh, you're signed up. You would have sent 44 for George?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, absolutely. I think, to me, as a Raku is going to be a nice player for you. No question. But, you were hunting at the time. You lost the opportunity, and we talked about, I'm going to take a little blame for this, because I think that people are not giving Booker a fair shot because we talked about wide receivers so much. We constantly talked about McMillan and Golden and Ibuka and Burden. We just kept talking about it and talking about it, and I'll take some blame for that.
Because listen to Scal Gavin.
We made it such. No, you wanted the offensive lineman.
That's right.
And so, but you had the question about his athletic ability earlier in the show, and I think we got that answered.
Yep.
So
thank you.
To me, the thing about it is, when you look at the wide receiver, I think it's really, really important opposite Lamb. I'm going to trust Shoddy. I'm going to trust the room. I'm going to trust. And you're right. Tomlin is one of the best in the league, but I'm willing to make that deal to add that kind of talent to this football team. I just am. I don't think they could go into this season, and we talked about this. We said this was going to happen. They were going to tell us about Mingo. They were going to tell us about Tolbert. They were going to tell us about they didn't take the opportunity. And to me, this is where with the way that they ran their draft tells me that maybe they have a plan. Maybe they do have a plan to go out and get a guy legitimately. Maybe it's not just Amari Cooper. Maybe it is one of these other guys.
Yeah, maybe they're going to trade a pick for next year. But they didn't, I guess, want to part with the second rounder for this draft to go get that guy. And maybe the price goes down. It's possible that it does as they get closer to the season. Maybe Pittsburgh says, let's screw this. I mean, we got DK Metcalf. We'd rather just get the guy out of here.
It's crazy. We're going to go into a third draft in a row next year feeling like we need a running back and a wide receiver, aren't we?
I don't know. I think the blue thing, to me, if you had Rico Dowdle, I think that would have made the blue thing, I think, is going to be really good for you. I'm just interested in the pairing that comes with that now.
Is he kind of like a Tony Pollard guy where you're wondering, can he be in every down?
I see Devon Achane from the Dolphins.
I think this guy is better than Tony Pollard.
He's faster, which says a lot.
I do.
And he's a better, Pollard was a really good receiver. Obviously, he was a converted wide receiver in college. But I think that is kind of the expectation of how things could play out in Dallas. He's not going to start immediately, but he could develop into your starter.
But he's got the tiny hands. Like I saw that chart. That means you are probably going to not totally get rid of that fumble issue ever, are you?
I can't say that.
A big problem.
I know that it's something that it's happened to him in the past. Yeah, you don't want anybody to fumble, but the explosive plays that he can make, I'm willing to take that chance. And I think the Cowboys are too.